Good afternoon, everyone. This is Plans and Plats Review Committee for August 11th. For all the applicants joining us online, please make sure you remain on mute until it's time for your particular case or otherwise need to speak. This will help us avoid background noise, so we appreciate that. To the PPRC members here in person, please be sure to speak up just so everyone virtually can hear you. We'll start with the planner or project manager here, who will provide brief introductions and their comments. Once they're complete, I'll facilitate going around the room, at which point the other reviewers can provide their comments. If the applicants do have a brief question, don't hesitate to ask, but if it is something that's going to involve lengthy discussion or follow-up, we ask that you coordinate with the project manager or the specific plan reviewer directly and schedule some time to have that discussion. This will help us get through all of the cases that we have on the agenda in a timely manner. As you can see, it's quite lengthy, so we appreciate your cooperation. So with that, we'll start with the first case on the agenda, which is Chris. We are actually going to do the first 6 cases as one consolidated item around the room. Well, they are separate projects, but they're all the same applicant. So we'll just do around the room once for all 6 of those. You can offer your comments to all of them at the time in which it's your turn to provide comments. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
All righty. Chris Kimmerly, Urban Design Planner. We'll start with formal site plan review 2213. This is for the Nora FEC right-of-way. Comments are in the system for all these cases. I'm just going to go over some of the major points. The first thing that we'll need the formal lease agreement from FEC for this. We have the application, but we'll need the actual agreement and the details with that. We'll need a landscape plan for this submittal. The survey and site plans just need to be accurately dimensioned and show all the context and conditions of the FEC railway behind. And just, we'll speak to this because we have a meeting tomorrow, but just to clarify what's happening with the streetscape design in relation to the portion on 7th Street and north of 10th, if that's going to require an amendment or how we resolve that with streetscape design for North Railroad Avenue. Moving on to formal site plan review 2214. So this is the temporary parking lot. The major component here, there's 2. First being that there's a alley abandonment requirement, so we'll have to submit for that abandonment on the alley there. And a major hang-up right now is with the demolition of the existing structure in the northwest corner of the parking lot. We spoke with legal yesterday, and due to the provisions of the code, that structure cannot be demolished for the parking lot. So we will have to either do a text amendment, zoning amendment, to allow that, or you'll have to design around the structure there.
Chris, we can that'll be part of our discussion tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Moving on to 2215, this is the 439 7th Street. 2 minor things here, setbacks, just make sure that you correctly label and calculate those. I think there's just a mix-up on what the frontages are. And then with landscaping, there is a 12% private open space requirement. So please just show that in the landscape plan of how that's being met and how those standards within that open space are being met as well.
That's not a problem.
Formal site plan 22-16. This is for 818 North Railroad Avenue. There's inconsistencies between the provided floor plan and the site plan. So just make sure that those 2 plans are coordinated. Concerns with the driveway and stair locations, things like that. So just address that. Same thing as the previous submittals. Make sure that the setbacks are correctly labeled and calculated there.
Chris,
And provide-
is that just the fact that you're considering two frontages, North Railroad and 8th Street in this example? Because is it a frontage and a frontage? Is that what we have to reconcile?
Yeah, so the main thing there is that the North Railroad Avenue will have the 0-foot setback. The rear setback will be the 20 feet. I think you guys might have shown 25 or something on the plans on that one. The alley will be the 5, and then the side residential, I think, is the main change from that. So the 10th Street frontage will be the, requires a 10-foot.
Yeah, I think we have that. I think we have to label it a little bit better for you.
Okay. And then in addition to that is just providing the streetscape and landscape details along North Railroad Avenue and the street frontages, the residential street frontages, just so we have that in the plans and can count those items.
Can do.
Formal site plan review 2217, this is 444 10th Street. Same thing as the previous comments, setbacks, labeling, and providing the landscaping details on the frontages as well. There are other comments in the system for that. Formal site plan review 2218, this is for 831 North Railroad Avenue. Thing here with the setbacks, so we ask that you provide an indication of the existing conditions of the curb, because the way the code was written for the setbacks, this was not taking into account the new streetscape design for North Railroad Avenue. So just make sure that you are basing your setbacks off of the existing conditions for that frontage currently. Further down the line, we'll have to probably amend the language to account for the new streetscape, but at this time, go off the existing conditions.
Just for this one application, 831, 861, this particular one.
Yeah, and for anything coming in the future along the western side there of North Railroad Avenue, it will all fall under this existing conditions of the North Railroad Avenue rather than the planned streetscape.
Okay, great.
And then for the survey on this one as well, just include the 861 North Railroad Avenue building, the adjacent property in that survey, because it appears to be both properties are included in the plan, so just make sure the survey illustrates both.
Yeah, we have individual surveys for each building because they're slammed together. So I thought we had submitted both, but if not, we'll get you both.
Okay. And then 15% private open space requirement, same thing, just make sure you're meeting those requirements and provide a plan to illustrate how and where those calculations are. And that's all I have for zoning on these items, and I'm sure we'll discuss more tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We'll go around the room. Vince Noel, survey.
Vince Noel, survey. My comments were similar to Chris's. For 2213, the biggest item was the copy of the lease with the FEC to see exactly the extent of what that is, and especially the cul-de-sac down at 7th Street. I'd like to see how that fits into that lease agreement. For 2214, the same issue with the abandonment of the alley, and also an overall survey of all 10 lots that are included instead of all individual lots. So I need to see an overall survey of everything. For 2215, like I said, all the comments are in the system. The biggest for that one is the water and sewer. We want to get it out of the alley, have them connect, instead of having a new water main run down the alley and services coming off of that, we suggest you connect directly to North Railroad, together with the sanitary services. Instead of having a joint one service servicing both, we need to have two separate services on that. The rest of the ones, check the driveway flares extending onto the adjoining property. And the last one was, yes, the survey of 831. We only had, we need the other survey as well too for that. So Other than that, the other comments are in the system and good to go.
Thanks,
Okay,
Vince.
thank you, Vince. Rick Rossano, engineering.
Yeah, my comments are in the system for all of the projects. They're pretty standard comments for the civil submittal stuff. I think Mr. Rakenis is on most of them, if not all of them. My contact information is in there, and reach out to me by phone or email and clarify anything that's in the comments for you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rick. Yep.
Thank you. Mark Hurley, Public Utilities.
I have a list of comments uploaded for each project. The only one I wanted to bring up here specifically was that on the temporary parking one at the north side. Our GIS system showed some water and sewer mains running through the alley between the two lots. That would need to be resolved. That's it.
Rick will,
Thank you.
Rick will be able to pick that up in the next round.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into that.
Okay. Let's see, Michael Technow, Public Utilities.
Well, the comment regarding the connection into the alley has already been made. Other than that, a few standard comments for all of them. I didn't see anything that would prevent passing a consensual review.
Okay. Tracy Ward, Stormwater.
Yeah, my comments are in the system. I'll just bring up a couple now. For the FEC right away, it appears the parking spaces will encroach 1 foot onto the private properties. So just, how is that going to be handled with all the property owners there?
We own all of that property. So the parking spaces are actually coming onto our property and encroach into the FEC right away. So the 1 foot on our side is good. It's the 17 feet into the FEC right away that we're trying to manage.
How about the CMAC property? You bought that property?
Okay,
Pardon?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
CMAX lot at the north end?
Oh,
Yeah,
Damien, Damien's group owns it now.
Is that all? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
If not, we need to provide owner's consent. If you guys did not, please provide us owner's consent or proof that you own it, warranty deed or something.
Yeah, we'll submit the warranty deed. It's been purchased since the time this application came in. So the entire western side is controlled by the applicant. We'll provide you a,
All right, for the parking lot at the north end, it appears the driveway aprons to be in conflict with utility poles. Suggest reducing the impervious area by reducing parking spaces from 18.5 to 18 feet and drive aisles to 24 feet max. You're showing sidewalk ramps from the handicap out to the street. You may need to provide a sidewalk along the north side of the 11th or whatever street that is.
yeah, we're gonna correct that. That was just some old line work. We intend to run a sidewalk along the west side of the access drive so that we can connect those ramps to one point, and then we'll do a crossing to cross 11th Street to the west side of North Railroad.
For 439 7th Street, just looking at the patio slopes, it came out to an average of 3%. Just wondering if part of that needs to be 2% for ADA. And for all these developments, if you could call out where replacement sidewalk, a new sidewalk is proposed as part of the development. For 818 North Railroad, the engineering plan, the landscape plan did match the architectural site plan.
We will fix that for you, sir.
Pardon me?
We will fix that for you, sir.
And same thing for 831 North Railroad. engineering and architectural plans.
Good, okay. And Brian, normally you would, we'd have Matt Hijazi for Public Works. He's not here today, but he said all of his comments are online, so you should be able to access those.
Yeah, I've reviewed all the comments.
Okay. We'll go to Valeria for traffic, and Valeria, I know you walked in late, but we're doing the first 6 items.
Yes,
Okay,
okay, no problem.
Thank you.
I got them all. All right, Valerio, traffic. So, the traffic analysis. One single traffic study was submitted for each one of the proposed developments. The traffic study makes assumptions in terms of the final build. You guys are taking into account pretty much the overall draft, so theoretical maximum development within the area. Now, I'm not gonna be asking for a single traffic study for each one of the developments, but at the very least, we need to schedule a methodology meeting where we do at least some sort of agreement on maybe in this case, you did submit a full study for the overall development, but in this case, we want to do an aggregate where maybe you call this one phase 1, however you want to name it, but every time you do a major submission, you basically have to kind of provide a specific transportation analysis. Another item based on the traffic study is the exception. You need to correct the terminology. It's TCEA, Traffic Concurrency Exception Area. It's nothing to do with CRA. And then, in general, the exception from county concurrency does not preclude the city to request more in-depth analysis given the significant change in land use, trip generation, together with the impact to the surrounding network. Also, in general, all concern and comments provided by the county in the TTS letter should be addressed. And then, as we sit down in this methodology meeting, as we develop the area, we need to come out with transportation demand management measures. And then, last but not least, a traffic signal warrant analysis will be needed for the impacted unsignalized intersection. That's the general comment for the traffic study. And again, we need to schedule a methodology meeting.
Right, so Valerio, we think the methodology meeting is probably gonna shake loose a lot of the things that you're looking for, more global perspective versus on a project by project, site plan by site plan perspective. So we'll have that scheduled as soon as we can with you.
Okay. All right, moving
Thanks.
forward, site comment. So regarding the site, general comment, for each one of your submissions, please provide a clean transportation specific site plan for the ground floor. So I would like to see all the transportation elements such as roadway width, driving aisles, parking stalls, sidewalk, curb, gutter, driveway, gate, you name it, properly labeled and dimensioned. At this moment, I'm pretty much shifting between architectural, civil, landscaping, I'm hunting for data. Please submit this transportation specific site plan, and whenever you submit this plan, provide all the dimensions for the transportation items.
Valerio, just for clarification, is that on a, do you want that plan for just, for each application, or do you want one globally for like the whole sort of area of where these all take place from 11th to 7th? Or is it on each site plan?
Each site plan, for
Okay.
each application.
Okay.
And common comment throughout all those site plans is to provide auto turn analysis for garbage truck or service vehicles. Then, if not provided, showcase a parking table. We require and provide the parking spaces, even though, I know it's fairly redundant, we've got plenty of parking in the area. Now, for each one of the site plan, I have specific comments. So for the back access, you can summarize the number of loading zones required and provide and properly dimension them.
So, one quick question, I'm getting your comments, they didn't provide any of that on the site plan?
Well, not the way I would like to view it, in the sense, as I said, I have pieces from all around those site plans. So if you have a transportation-specific site plan, you know, I can see something is missing versus, okay, I missed it because it's sitting somewhere in sheet number 5 architecture. I have to cross-reference with civil plans and plus the survey and God knows which other plans I have to crisscross.
We can provide that for you, Valerio. It's not an issue to label them. And just so you understand very quickly, the loading spaces are being organized by the applicant in terms of how they're loading their tenant space. So two different tenants may be sharing one common like loading zone and garbage room. So for efficiencies, we have them strategically located along the entire corridor. So if you need clarification of that, we'll certainly provide it on the resubmittal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can see you do have loading zones, but the issue, and I understand that you cannot really tell exactly the full dimension depending on what type of tenant you're gonna have, but whatever you're proposing, if you can put a narrative or summarize your assumptions. Sure,
Will do.
That's for the back end. For the surface parking lot, please show the pavement markings and signage highlighting the type of control applied to the 11th Street and parking lot drive intersections, the 4-way stop control, 2-way, so if you can put, you know, the specific. And then providing pedestrian crosswalk and corresponding ADA ramps across the parking lot driveways at 11th Street and Spruce Avenue. Now for the 22, the restaurant, again, show the type of intersection control surrounding the proposed development, pavement markings and signage. Then in general, how our deliveries perform, so clearly mark and dimension the designated loading zone, and to provide a crosswalk across 7th Street. Number 23, Nora office. Same comments, general comments, clearly mark and dimension the designated loading zone. Then 24, the office on 10th Street. Again, dimension and location of the loading zone.
Yeah.
And then the 25, the mixed development on Railroad Avenue. Again, how our deliveries perform, clearly mark and dimension the designated loading zone if required or necessary.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Valerio. We'll go to Robert Brown Building.
Okay, case 2213 and 2214 for the parking. I didn't have any comments other than listing the separate permits that you'll need. That'll include site lighting, landscape, irrigation, etc. Going on to case 2215, which is the 439 7th Street. That's the restaurant. Looking at the east exit door, it looks like it swings across the property line and is discharging onto the adjacent property. That's not something that your building code will allow. If you don't have control of that property, if it's not part of the same development, you can't exit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is less tragic LCA architecture. You're absolutely correct. We'll make correction and entry from different side.
Okay, good. And then the remainder of my comments are going to be pretty much applicable to all of the projects. So looking at your accessible parking, in many cases, you have valet parking listed on the site plan, and the valet parking obviously is off-site. Now, when it comes to accessibility, if there's an accessible vehicle that's been modified for the driver, a valet may not be able to operate that. So self-parking for accessibility is needed. When you submit for permit, you would need to show that the closest parking space to each of these entrances is an accessible parking space. So the plan reviewers won't fail the building permit review for lack of accessible parking. So you'll have to show the off-site parking, when you apply for permits.
Yeah, the offsite parking, the central lot and our proposed north and temporary lot will be part of all the submittals for any of the buildings because they're all going to be integrated to our site. Each of the individual site plans will rely on those centralized lots.
Right. And if you follow that general principle of the accessible parking space being the closest one to the entrance,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're going to be fine. And I'm not going to go through all the comments. A number of these mixed-use buildings could potentially have restaurants in them, so grease interceptor will be required. And the other comments are just general comments, making sure that the contractors are protecting neighboring property and not parking illegally and without any consideration for the neighborhood as they're doing the work. But all my comments are in the system and they're pretty general. Also, when doing demolition on some of these projects, make sure that your contractor is getting the asbestos abatement notification to the Palm Beach County Office of the Department of Health.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure.
Thanks, Robert.
All right, that's it. You're welcome.
Okay, Seville?
Yep.
Urban Public, please.
Hi, so, you'll see my comments, sporadic because there's sections that hit trigger public art, and even though it's, even though you have different permits, separate permitting, the whole site is one development, and so you'll be triggering it. If my understanding is, art is gonna be integrated, which is terrific. What I need though, on the site plan for site plan approval is where the potential identified areas for art would be placed. If you're not going to put art on the site, I need an email stating that the developer is choosing option 2, so I can pass along and update the comments. Inevitably, the art assessment application needs to be completed, and that will be due at the time of building permit fees.
Here's a question. I don't know if any of these 6 amendments will trigger art at this time, will they?
At the cumulatively.
Cumulatively, okay.
So that's why all my comments are kind of sporadic, but the way the code is written, it's cumulative.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking that down the road, they're coming in with some pretty larger development, so do we address it then or address it now? But
We
Depends on how
can get
they
with
do
you,
the
Sabili, and
permit.
we can get with you, Sabili, on that to figure out, there's already a public art that was being worked into the streetscape plan. So there is some already being done, and the applicant can figure out if they want to put some on these new buildings on these individual sites. Whereas some of the stuff on the west side, obviously, there's no opportunities for that. So we can come with you and organize how we will either add some art or cash out in some instances and kind of balance all of that out. I think it's easily rectifiable based on sites that have room and other sites that are just landlocked, and it is what it is.
Okay, so we should probably do that sooner than later, so I can keep moving you guys along.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Seville. Peter Leduc, Fire.
Good afternoon. Fire has no objection to approve the individual site plans as proposed. I have provided comments where applicable for the buildings or proposed construction. And I won't go through all the comments unless you have a specific question on one, but one area of special interest would be your location of your fire hydrants and FDCs and your DDCV to be coordinated maybe before you go to the middle for your civil plans, so that we can avoid any miscommunications and having to fail it with comments. If you can reach out to me with PDFs and any questions for the location of each of the individual properties, if we can avoid maybe some unnecessary failing of your plan submittal. So my email address is at the bottom, and I'm good with answering questions by email to expedite and make a smooth transition through your permitting. That's my comment.
Okay.
Thanks,
Pete,
Fire Marshal.
Pete, hey, this is Rick Rakenis. Right now on the streetscape plans, we show fire hydrants on basically on every street corner, every block, going up. So we've sort of taken a look at that, and I think it'll be helpful for us to sort of provide a master plan showing, you know, where those are and how they relate to the various other individual parcels, because this is sort of coming together like this, and I think that'll help a lot. And then if we're missing something, it's easier for us to pick it up as well. So.
Very well, thank you. Okay, thank you, Peter.
Thank
Ray
you.
Granty, landscape.
Good afternoon. Yeah, and I'll start with that comment is for everyone that you look at landscape plans and all of the utilities, because that needs to be coordinated. There's a lot of conflicts, and the utilities are not shown on the landscape plans that were submitted. So that's going to be a big factor. On most of these, some of the landscape plans were not complete, so I identified all of that in each one of the comments. A couple of properties needed private open space. I'm sure you're aware of that, so we'll have to figure that out. Everything else, the one on 7th Street, the property line was not clear on the landscape plan, and so that needs to be cleaned up a little bit. That was a little difficult, but my comments are in the system. I think there's a little bit of coordination that needs to be done with the civil plans, and that's probably going to be the biggest part of it. If there's any questions or anything, you know how to get hold of me.
Ray, thanks for that. We're gonna sit down with you on the back of house service court area. It's in the FEC right away. We think that's probably the most important one that has, like, everything else on site plan wise that has a building on it, or a new building or a parking lot. Those are pretty straightforward, but that whole back of house area, we'd like to have a sit down with you and kind of go over with you and staff to work out minimizing the amount of material we're putting out there, because we're at risk at all times. And we had this meeting in March 2021, where we kind of talked through or introduced the idea that we're going to probably minimize as much as we can out in that back area. So we'd like to have that conversation with you offline and have a sit down and kind of go through the whole corridor and figure out how best to tackle it.
Yeah, Angela and I will be happy to
Yeah.
meet with you. I'm kidding. No, we'll figure it out. And, you know, something is going to be required, and I have some thoughts, so we can sit down and look at it.
And I promise that I'll work harder to try and get Rick's plans more integrated into mine. It's tough.
Thank you.
Civil engineers are so hard to work with, I know. Yeah.
Just coordination, that's all it takes.
That's all it is.
Thank you, Ray. Denise, Harry, you have anything for law? Angela?
No comment.
Rick?
Right, I just wanted to ask, as we discussed at DAC yesterday, we just executed the agreement on July 25th with the commission and the city to purchase 165,000 square feet of TDRs from the Seaboard Station. We're finalizing the deal with the school board. We're going to have another 490,000 square feet. At what point, we don't have to get into it today, but hopefully tomorrow, at what point is Nora going to begin to need TDRs? And, you know, I want to be looking a little bit in advance as to what may happen in terms of new development, let's say, north of 10th Street, because I've got to be able to divvy up the 490,000. We're going to buy those from the school board as a pass-through, and then immediately turn around and sell them. So I'm trying to divvy up who's going to get what. So if we can chat about that tomorrow, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, Rick, it's Damien Barr here. Yeah, absolutely, we can talk about that tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Okay, I believe that's everything for items 1 through 6 on the agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, John, and thanks, staff, everyone, for, I know it was a lot at one time. It was a lot of projects. We really appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to item number 7, which, Chris, is you.
Yep. So this is formal site plan review 22-12. This is for the Chase Street improvements, space of the city. First comment is, this submittal is a pretty broad scope, to be submitted under one umbrella. It kind of impacts a lot of site-specific conditions regarding landscaping and streetscape requirements to the individual plan development. So it's probably more appropriately to be submitted into 3 separate applications, one for a minor amendment to Phillips Point, one for the Esperante, and then the standalone Chase Street improvements. With that, this is within FDOT right away, so a predetermination letter is needed from FDOT. General comments are in the system, mainly regarding sidewalk widths and tree calculations and landscaping. Regarding the curb condition and the street condition itself, going to a curbless design proposal. Currently in front of Esperante, curbless design is proposed. The question is, with the one flagler submittal, that plan shows a curved design. Is the intention to come in, I guess, as part of this or later on with a site plan amendment to match that curb condition with the 2 plans?
Hey, Chris, this is Jordan with Related. The plan is to match them, whether we address it here or a minor amendment to the one flagler plan. We defer to staff, but the intent is for them to match up.
Okay, we can discuss that further then with the submittal on what needs to be done with one flagler. To the same point with the curbless design decision, I guess the question is this an appropriate location for a curbless design, given that Phillips Point's frontage, for example, is 2 facing garages with wide curb cuts and so forth. Lakeview and Okeechobee are high traffic areas. You know, the need for bollards and other elements to protect both the pedestrians and the landscaping is a question that perhaps the curved street is still the more optimal design decision rather than the curbless. I guess we need to have further conversations on that end, because staff believes that the curved street is more appropriate here than the curbless design.
The curb street where? Lakeview is curved.
Along Chase, the frontage of Chase. And then my only other comment that I would like to call out here is just with the on-street parking. So there's proposal for additional parking along Okeechobee. These spaces appear to be really close and probably don't meet the FDOT corner clearance and intersection visibility requirements due to the distance and their proximity to those intersections. And staff recommends, instead of the parking spaces, to dedicate this space to pedestrian access and circulation or additional landscaping. And that is all I have for zoning comments.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We'll go to Vince Doyle survey.
Yeah, my comments are in the system. I just had a few. Biggest one was a survey of the limits of the overall improvements, just so we can clearly delineate all the right-of-way lines for Chase and Okeechobee and Trinity and everything else. So, was it?
All right, Rick Rossano, engineering.
I have a couple of comments in the system, but they're pretty clear cut. If you have any questions, my contact info is in there.
Mark.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna comment in general that like this streetscape project, anything to do with utilities and so on and so forth is kind of irrelevant here because we're not touching any of that. And that's what most of the comments are, or a lot of the comments.
Just want to make sure nothing's being impacted, but I didn't see much of it on drawings that I looked at.
Okay, thank you.
Mark Hurley, Public Utilities?
Yeah, I had a list of uploaded comments. Most of them were regarding things coming close to utilities and distances, making sure that they're appropriate. That's it.
Michael Technile, Public Utilities?
I have no issue with the conceptual plan. I've passed some BPRC or the
Tracy Ward, Stormwater?
Yeah, my comments on the system, I'll go over a few here. The west parking space, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The west parking space on Trinity, can that be shifted eastward? So the striping won't be in front of the driveway to the next door building. Next comment, the FPL duct bank on Okeechobee may be in conflict with your proposed catch basin. You want to locate those before engineering permits submittal. The grading of Chase Street, can you look to elevate the road somewhat, at least at the lower area? That portion, this is north of Trinity, that portion may be susceptible to sunny day flooding in the 30 years from today. So I'd like to take care of it today if we could. Be consistent in labeling of Chase Avenue or Chase Street. I saw Chase Avenue, Chase Street, Chase Road. So if you just want to pick one and use it on all the plans, it'd be appreciated. And at the north, on the east side of Chase Avenue, approaching Lakeview Avenue, the grades appear to show a 10% longitudinal slope. So take a look at that. I'm done.
He says he's done.
Valeria, for traffic?
Yes, thank you. So my comments on the system, I got several. Number one, yes, provide the SDLC access management letter, as well as a county approval letter, notify them about the work. The overall comment is to provide a transportation traffic specific set of site plans with each transportation related features, and to have them properly labeled and dimensioned. The civil horizontal control plan C400 to C4.03 are a great starting point. Other comments regarding, going what Chris already said, to have coordination with One Flaglers in terms of designing, the curbless versus curb sidewalk. Now, I do believe that it's possible to implement curbless facilities. However, you need to definitely improve pedestrian safety, specifically at the extremely wide garage entrances. And we do need to discuss what type of pedestrian safety improvement measurements or strategies you're going to be implementing. Pedestrian refugee island, pavement markings, warning signs, audible, visual notification, you name it. Another item, ideally, the minimum required sidewalk width is 8 feet. There are several locations, it goes down to 6, 5. If you actually go on the field, sometimes there is a post that's restricted to like the minimum 3 feet. In general, ideally, there should be 10 feet sidewalk. The general comment is not acceptable that the proposed landscape areas are at times wider than the adjacent pedestrian facilities. Yes. As Chris said, the proposed on-street parking along Okeechobee Boulevard does not comply with FDOT minimum requirements. If you resubmit and you're still going after those parking spaces, definitely seek for FDOT approval, but specifically highlight the reference code and showcase that you're meeting the minimum dimension required. You can have your traffic engineer contact me, I can provide the references. Then that would be it for now.
All right, thank you, Valerio. Robert Brown, Building?
I didn't really have any comments other than to maintain the accessibility as you're doing the streetscaping for wheelchair accessibility. That's it.
Okay, thank Thank you, Robert Saville for art.
No comment.
Peter Leduc, fire.
Fire's no objection to approved.
Okay. Ray Crancy, landscaping.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I think there's gotta be some utility conflict when you're proposing the landscaping to be changed. That's the point that utilities was trying to make, is just be aware of what does exist, even if the utilities are not being changed. We gotta make sure that we're not creating any conflict with the placement of the trees, structural soil, below ground, et cetera. I have general comments in here because I also have put the comment in there that each one of these developments should have an amendment to their approved plan, since the streetscape and landscaping is a part of their approved document. So, if these are being amended, they need to go with each individual, development as approved. So, I think we'll work on that. And now potentially we have 4 because of, one flagler also being amended. So there's any changes there. So, the rest of my comments are general, just trying to help steer things in the right direction as far as what the code requirements are for the streetscape. If you have any questions or anything on that, I'm certainly available.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Denise, anything for law? Angela?
No comment.
Rick?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, so Chris, I believe that's
Chris,
it for number 7. Go ahead,
Chris,
Jordan.
could we just circle back on the application request? And Mike Spruce, maybe you can chime in, but the desire to have multiple applications versus one, I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the most expeditious process to do that.
So there'll be 3, in this case, 3 minor amendments, 2 of them one being for the Esperante plan development, a minor amendment there, a minor amendment or plan development amendment to Phillips Point, one for one flagler, and then this Chase Street face of the city will be a standalone. And the plans will just reflect the same between what is submitted.
So the existing Phillips Point minor that's in, would that be able to be reflective of the work that's taking place on Trinity? I'm sorry, Phillips Point minor.
Yeah, we could incorporate that as under one umbrella for the entire Phillips Point amendment.
Mike, did you have any thoughts on how we would split this up, or does that answer your question?
I think we'll have to talk about it. I mean, right now, we've got Trinity side as a minor amendment that's currently being processed. Chris, are you saying that we need to make all of Phillips Point one minor amendment? And so we would break out that entire block as a separate submittal? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, so the improvements that are around Phillips Point currently in this submittal here, we can incorporate that into the minor amendment for the Trinity improvements. Because the original Trinity submittal actually had a portion of Flagler and Lakeview. So we can just add this back into that under one minor amendment.
Okay.
You just want to break up Phillips Point and Esperante.
Yeah, Phillips Point,
So
Esperante.
however they want to treat the landscaping adjacent to each of those buildings.
Right.
We can treat it per that minor.
Gotcha.
Just want to make sure that for the face of the city portion, for pieces that are at Phillips or Esperante in the public right of way, how we address those, because I guess we'll do anything outside the property line, but that would incorporate pieces in front of Esperante or Phillips Point.
So, what he's saying is, you do Phillips Point, Esperante separate, including the landscaping, everything that's outside the property line. And for Trinity, for the part that's face of the city, that's treated separately. Because that has to go to the commission, so that's treated separately, that's what he's saying. So that's why he's saying to do the different applications. So you got Trinity that's on your property, and you got Trinity separate that's in the city right away. Got it?
We'll talk on our side and circle back if we have questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Yep.
So that's it for number 7. We will go to case number 8 on the agenda, which is Alex. So if you want to do a brief introduction, take your major comments, and then I'll facilitate around the room.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Post, planner. This is planning board case number 1926, a request by Urban Design Studio for the approval of a minor plan development amendment to extend their building footprint 153 square feet for a car handover bay, and then as well as some changes to the existing parking lot to support the new expansion, and then some exterior and signage changes. So I've already had a conversation with Lency before PPRC and about my comments, which are already in the system. So I'm not going to spend too much time on them here. The only thing I really want to note is that I provided the previous approved landscape plan for the property, and it's staff's understanding that the current landscaping on the property doesn't meet that. So I'm sure Ray will touch on it later, but the property is going to need to be brought up to what was previously approved. So that was the only thing I wanted to touch on here, so. Over.
Okay. We'll go around the room. Vince, Noel, survey.
There was no survey provided, so I would suggest at least do a specific purpose survey for the area in the parking lot that's being modified.
Okay. Rick Rossano, engineering.
I have no comments.
Mark Hurley, public utilities, no comment. Michael Technow, no comment. Tracy Ward, stormwater,
No comments.
no comment. Valerio for traffic.
Yes, a few comments. Provide the county TPS letter once available, and then explain the functionality of this handover bay. It's just vehicles getting out, or are they gonna be backing in? And then either provide a turnaround space or demonstrate with an auto turn analysis that a vehicle reaching the dead end of the modified parking lot can maneuver out of it and back.
Okay. Robert Brown, building,
I have no comment.
no comment. Ville, art,
No comment.
no comment. Peter Leduc, fire,
Yeah, fire has no objections. The comments are related to your plan review if they're applicable.
Any questions, reach out to me individually with my email address.
okay. Ray Crancy, landscaping,
Good afternoon. Coordinated the comments with Alex, and I think he had discussions with you already. I had a few extra things there, but one of the big things is, there's a lot of missing landscaping on this site, and particularly along Okeechobee, along the frontage there, so we need to look at, what is approved there and what's missing at this, going into this, and then my other comments are relevant to whatever you make.
is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Denise Law,
No comments.
no comments. Angela,
No comments.
No comment.
and no comments from Rick. Okay, Alex, I believe that's it. Lindsay, do you have any quick questions, or you can follow up with Alex as needed?
Yeah, I think I'll follow up with Alex and Ray further. John, you don't have anything further? Or I guess he's muted. So, but yeah, I'll follow up with Ray and Alex afterwards. But we're good to go from here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we will go to case number 9, which is Linda.
Me, thank you. Hi. Linda Louise, senior planner. Okay, so this is the Olera project. It's those agenda items 9 and 10. It's for the construction of a mixed-use project consisting of 479 residential units located within 2 towers, over 33,000 square feet of ground floor commercial, and an internal parking garage. It includes the partial abandonment of a 15-foot wide alley to allow for the configurations of the parcels related to the proposed mixed-use development. So this project site is located west of North Flagler Drive, generally between Butler Avenue and Pine Street, and it's comprised of 3.6 acres. So my comments are posted online just to keep the meeting rolling. We can discuss the comments and any concerns at the follow-up meeting scheduled for next Wednesday in detail. But just to highlight some of my important comments, there are a few issues with the compliance with the zoning code, specifically the minimum and maximum setbacks, particularly along Flagler and maybe Butler. I need to see the dimensions in the site plan, which weren't fully provided. Another issue is the maximum allowable building length and the active liner use requirement for the parking garage along Butler. The alleyway connection and redirection due to the proposed abandonment could also be designed differently, as opposed to going underneath the building. My concerns were provided in my comments. I also need more information on the use of the retaining walls around the project. The purpose of the CMUD regulations is to activate the use of space on certain streets, and there's some concern that the retaining wall isolates the space versus making it active. So I need to have a better understanding of the purpose and the interaction with the surrounding spaces. So if the walls are necessary, maybe they need to be redesigned or incorporated differently into the project to activate the space between the building and the street. And finally, the Flagler Drive Parkway design for the 30-foot height incentive. So at this time, staff does not support the intent. I mean, staff doesn't feel that the intent has been met for the parkway. So when we have the follow-up meeting, we'd like to work with you on the design of the parkway. And those are my major comments for zoning.
All right, so this is for 9 and 10, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so just keep that in mind as we go around the room. Vince Noel, survey?
Vince Noel, yeah, I also had concerns about the exit, of the alley under the building. An easement would also have to be granted to the city, which I'm not sure if that's how the title will allow that to have an easement, running through the building, but that would be required. Also, we need to know what that height would be over the proposed exit, because I'm not sure what kind of vehicles will be using it. Service vehicles, garbage trucks, or whatever that might be going through there. So, we need to explore that a little bit more. The utility layout is still being evaluated for the proposed sanitary sewer that's in the existing alley to be, rerouted. For the alley abandonment itself, we have a quote from Anderson and Carr for $2,400, so we'll need a check made out to Anderson and Carr and provide that to myself, and then we'll figure out where we go from there afterwards. Other than that, my other comments are in the system.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Rick Rostano, engineering?
My comments are in the system also. There's a request for CCTV for the stormwater along the frontage of the project. Anything else, just give me a call direct or shoot me an email. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mark Curley, Public Utilities?
I had a list of review, comments for the project. I just had, 2 to go over here. One is to, show all the pavement restoration, boundaries for the utility work in the streets and in one of the parking lots. And then the other one is, that the landscaping plans, don't seem like they show the utilities accurately from the engineering plans. That's it.
All right, thank you. Michael Technow, Public Utilities.
Yeah, a few standard comments that I uploaded into the system. As Vince said, the department is evaluating, the location of the current infrastructure as well as potential downstream impacts. So I would anticipate coming in and having a meeting with us.
All right. Tracy Ward, Stormwater?
Comments in the system, I'll go over a couple here. One, your drainage calculations need to consider a sea level rise for groundwater table and the tailwater conditions. Next comment, design, your exfiltration trench appears to be located under the building. So the design access height, whatever, so that maintenance vehicles can get in there and, construction vehicles to, reestablish the exfiltration trench when it's no longer functioning as designed. Sidewalk and parking easements will be needed for the parking spaces and sidewalks outside the right of way. The existing water main may be in conflict with your proposed structure ST31. And there appears to be a low spot and a high point, a low spot on, Butler Street opposite Broward Avenue, and then possibly a high point on the west side of Flagler. So the Flagler one appears to provide additional existing spot grades, so I could check that. And then check the grading on Broward.
Okay. Valeria, for traffic?
Yes, any comments? So let's start with the traffic analysis. You need to submit a revised full traffic study. The current traffic analysis is lowering the number of trips significantly because it's just fulfilling the county concurrency. So we need to have a study based on the actual number of trips generated by the proposed development. A second methodology meeting might be necessary in case significant impact or level of service deterioration are identified or predicted. And once available, provide the county TPS letter. That's for the traffic analysis. Now on the site. We need to submit a clean transportation-specific site plan. Showcasing the transportation-related features, roadway width, driving aisle, parking stalls, crosswalk, signage, and pavement markings. No underground utilities, please, just surface items. And it needs to be properly labeled and dimensioned. C400 is a great starting point. And then in this transportation site plan, you got to showcase basic curb details on the opposite side of the road surrounding the proposed development. You need to provide a striping plan for each of the roads fronting the proposed development. Access. So there are a total of 5 access points, curb cuts, showcased in the site plan. City code only allows a maximum of 4. So you need to revise accordingly or request a variance. There are 3 driveways curb cuts on Butler Street. City code only allows 2. Now, this is a bigger item, the big item. Per city code, access to all residential lots in a proposed subdivision shall be provided from the lowest functional class 4 roadway having frontage on the lot. Given the possibility to access the proposed development through 2 local roads, Butler and Pine Street, the North Flagler driveway being fronting a urban collector, it is not warranted. Another item is to install a high visibility pedestrian crossing connecting the proposed development to the eastern promenade. The location could be either mid-block, or you can pick one of the existing, connecting one of the existing eastern ramps, just north of Pine or just south of Butler. Valet operation. You need to properly depict and analyze valet location and operations. I'm totally clueless what is happening right now, based on your current submission. The analysis must be corroborated by showcasing vehicle paths to and from the garage and the pickup drop-off location. Moreover, in your Q analysis, you need to provide more detail in a breakdown for the processing time steps. Specifically, how long it's going to be the greeting or the arrival and the departure of the vehicle, the valet pickup drop-off, the actual walk time from the podium to the garage and back. A bypass lane must be provided at the valet service location. Pertaining to the garage design, you need to provide and clearly mark the turnaround space at each of the dead end of the garage. There are none currently. Also, you need to clearly mark and dimension the required loading zones. And then clearly mark and dimension each of the handicap stalls. Then ultimately, depending on the outcome of the design, the traffic study, you need to provide transportation demand management strategies. This is for the site plan. Moving to the alley abandonment, as Vince and Linda pointed out, with the abandonment, basically the alleyway becomes a dead end. There's going to be either an access agreement needed to be struck in order to enter or exit the alleyway. Nonetheless, because of the proposed development, potential significant increase in traffic volume is expected. Thus, we're going to need to designate the alleyway one-way. Discussion and coordination with public works and engineering services should be conducted to pick the directionality. And lastly, the alleyway must be repaved, restriped throughout, and proper signage installed.
Entire alley?
Okay, thank you, Valeria. We will go to Robert Brown, building.
Okay, I'll run through some of my comments here. The demolition for the existing buildings, you'll need an asbestos survey to go to the Health Department, Palm Beach County office. The site is in a flood zone. The base flood elevation is 7 feet and have 88, and we have a 2-foot freeboard. So you need to have your mechanical equipment and first floor elevated above that level of 9 feet, nav 88. Accessible parking sheet G200 pulls out 920 parking spaces. The only mention of accessible parking is a note for East Tower stating there's one accessible parking space provided per floor. That's obviously not adequate. Plans don't actually show any accessible parking spaces, so you'll have to provide them in accordance with fair housing guidelines and Florida accessibility code for us to review. 1 in every 6 accessible parking spaces needs to be van accessible, and the height and the minimum height for that is a 98-inch clearance from the entry all the way to the space back out. If you are providing electric vehicle charging stations, 1 in 25 of those would need to be accessible. If your parking garage is enclosed, give some consideration to providing noise attenuation for the required ventilation fans. Grease interceptor will be required because of, I think there's a cafe and potentially other need for grease interceptor. I've given you a list of separate permits that are required. Given that this is a large project with a lot of staging, make sure your contractor is going to be geared up to allow for parking of their vehicles and their subcontractor vehicles without causing problems for the neighboring properties. And also they'll need to have measures to protect the neighboring properties as well. And I've given you the contact information for Caroline Puel to contact her regarding the building address based on the entry location. That's it for my comments.
All right, thank you, Robert. Billy, for Art.
My comments are in there. I need you guys to provide, if you're gonna provide art, I need it identified on the site plan. If you're not going to do the art and you're choosing option 2, contribution to the public art fund, I need an email stating that. And then we can move forward with either option you choose. My email's in there, just need to contact me, okay?
Good,
Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Peter Leduc for Fire.
Yes, good afternoon. Fire has no objections to either of the cases. The one for the 2 towers, my comments are there. They're quite extensive comments, but mostly they're related to plan review. But also more importantly is your life safety features when you have dual towers and how you're going to be providing for the fire alarms and fire sprinklers and all that related information. So if there's any questions on any of those questions or comments that I put, you can email me with some PDFs and your questions, and I'll be good to respond. prior to your plan submittal, so we can work these things out, before we get there, to avoid any unnecessary delays in your permit approval. Was my comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Peter. Ray Clancy, Landscaping?
Good afternoon. Comments are in the system. Open space, there's a list of corrections for the tree disposition list. And I think that if you have any questions on any of that, get a hold of me. And private and public open space that was required will be looking at that and needing to be clarified. All of the square footages and where that exactly that is located at. I just wanted to be clear on that. One thing I wanted to point out is the 5-foot landscape buffer is required to be provided along the interior property lines with other properties. And then if they are adjacent to residential properties, there is a screen wall or fence requirement also. So that was something that I didn't know if there was any mention of on the plan. So, two trees must meet the minimum 20-foot height requirements. Those are some major things. That's probably the major items. So all the other comments are in there, and I guess we're meeting next week.
I'm sorry?
And are we
Setting it up.
next week?
Yes, Wednesday
All right, Wednesday next week.
at
So,
11.
all right, so if there's any questions in the meantime, we can. That's it.
All right, thank you, Ray. Denise, anything for law? No. Angela?
Comment.
Rick?
Just a couple quick things. I see you're taking advantage of the LEED certification for 20 feet of the height incentive. Again, keep in mind, you won't be certified until after the building is done. So something of this magnitude, we would want to have a pre-construction meeting with Robert's team. In section 94-215 of the zoning code, there's specific requirements that have to be addressed for any type of LEED or gold platinum certification. So just be aware of that, and let's discuss it at the pre-construction meeting. Emphasize Robert's point, we're having a lot of issues with larger towers going up that are impacting the adjoining neighbors, so please be cognizant of that. Again, that's a discussion we can have in more detail at the pre-con meeting. And as we've discussed before, please continue your public outreach. Prefer not to have 100 to 200 people show up at a commission meeting or planning board. So hopefully that's going well. If there's anything you need from us in that regard, we'll be happy to help out.
Yeah, we did have a public meeting, Rick, and it was universally supported. And we will continue to have, and we had a second one, by the way, by Zoom with no comment. So we will continue to reach out to folks for that. But so far, we're looking very good for this
Okay,
first run
good.
at
Thank
this new CMUD.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, so Linda, anything else for this?
No, I guess we'll hammer out the issues come Wednesday, so, we'll make it a productive one and try to resolve as many issues as possible.
Okay. Hey, Linda, just one thing, before we go. There was a comment that we needed to provide CCTV, and we did provide that on the flash drive. I know because I had to get.
I remember seeing it, and initially I had some issues uploading, but I believe that it was on the upload.
It was a zip.
You guys-
I think it was a
Yeah,
zip.
it was on TV. I didn't look to see if there was, stormwater was there or not. I don't remember. We'll take a look and see.
Yeah, if you could take another look, because we did provide that. I talked to Mike Spruce this morning. He gave it to me, and I did put it on the flash drive, so it should be in there somewhere for you.
And I remember seeing it, so.
Yeah, I remember seeing CCTV too. I just can't tell you whether it was, I know it was some sanitary I was looking at. I don't know about the storm, but we'll check and see. If not, then
Okay.
Linda.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that will be items 9 and 10. We'll go on to number 11, which is Linda.
Yeah, it's planning board case number 1917. It's for a minor subdivision to replat 3 existing parcels into a total of 4 new parcels. The subject parcels are located at 3120, 3130, and 3140 Washington Road. within the Prospect Park Historic District. So, my comments, I need to see a site plan showing all existing and improved relocated buildings and structures as it relates to the proposed lot lines. The site plan must also show the setback dimensions from the lot lines to demonstrate compliance with the requirements of the zoning code. It's important to note that the subdivision cannot create any nonconformities. If any nonconformities are created as a result of the proposed lot lines, these nonconformities will need to be resolved prior to moving the plat forward to City Commission. And this includes the existing dock at 3130 Washington Road. So a question came up yesterday on how the middle 1/3 is measured, and based on the language of the code, it's measured from the middle 1/3 of the proposed upland lot line, so not the submerged lot lines. So if it's outside the middle 1/3, then the issue will need to be addressed before we move forward with the plat. And that does it for zoning.
Vince Noel survey?
Yeah, my comments are in the system. I'll be issuing a separate technical plat comments letter. One of my issues was that it's a two-owner plat, and we don't want to end up with the same situation we had with the Briggs plat, which non-conforming parcels are created because the current ownership does not match up with the proposed lot line. So if, John, if you could have your both ownerships into one name, that would be most beneficial to avoid that happening again. And I'm not sure we want it to happen again, because otherwise we end up with these slivers and whatnot that's gonna happen out there, so, which makes things more difficult, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. Rick, I know in this case, we don't have that alleyway issue, which was part of what caused, I think, so much heartburn. But we're on top of it already. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Rick Rossano, engineering?
No comments.
No comments. Mark Hurley, Public Utilities?
Yeah, I just had three review comments. I'll go over them now real quick. One was that the driveways can't encroach on water meter boxes or the backflow assemblies. Two, new utility services would be required for additional lots. And the last one was, would the larger three lots maintain the addressing, and would the smallest lot get a new address? That was all.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Michael Technow, Public Utilities?
No issue with the reading.
No comments. Tracy Ward, Stormwater? No comments. Valerio for traffic?
Yes, some comments. The comments pertain to access and driveway locations for the property. Currently, the distance between the access points is either 90 feet and 60 feet. They both do not meet the city code criteria of 125 feet. So it will be necessary to obtain a variance. Nonetheless, before the replat, it's important to identify at the very least the location and the width for the proposed access point for each of the property, or some sort of a shared access is contemplated. You don't need a traffic study or traffic statement, but you do need a narrative. You do need to showcase those access points for each of the property or a shared access if you're going to keep the same number of access points.
It was our intent to create this is David Lawrence. It was our intent to create a separate access points for each one. So I guess we'll work with you on that offline to go over that.
All right, thank you, Valerio. Robert Brown, Building?
No comment.
No comment. Stability, Art?
No comment.
No comment. Peter Leduc, Fire?
Fire, no objections, approved.
Okay. Ray Clancy, Landscaping?
I passed it in the system, with the lot lines where they're at, but, I did put in just an informational comment, which is all lots proposed will have to individually meet the requirements of Article 14 Landscape Code, including 94-448 tree protection. The owner of each lot must apply for a tree alteration permit prior to removal or relocation of any trees or palms. there are currently no permit applications for tree alteration permits on the existing lots, so just informational wise. That's it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ray. Denise, anything for law? Nope. Angela stepped out. Rick?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Linda, anything else for this item?
Nope, I mean, if there are any questions, you can always contact us. The contact information is provided at the end of the comments, so, yeah. If you have any comments or questions, give us a ring.
Could I just circle back to one question, one thing in traffic real quick? I hate to ask. So he was mentioning, Valerian was mentioning that we would need to apply for a variance because of the driveways, is that correct?
Yes, I mean, the city code requires 125 feet, which is understandably, possible. But at least, we can point out the fact that, we're not considering a variance. And then, let's see where you're proposing your access points and the width. And then, besides the relationship between, side access driveways, we also need to see, what's in front of the property. You don't want a driveway in front of the section.
But they may not know what's proposed because it's gonna be vacant, so it's not a matter of, it's not like a standard cookie cutter subdivision.
Well, I'm not asking to do the full access point, like, the throat, the driveway to the property.
I know, but even the location of it, maybe one side, maybe the other side, they're not gonna, and if they say it's gonna be in the middle now, it may change when they find a buyer, so.
And then you're gonna ask for a, modification or amendment down the road.
Did you say 425?
What?
125.
125 feet is the minimum distance between access points according to city code. But again,
So would a variance have to be applied for before we proceed, or would that just be applied for at the time of permit when we apply for the access points?
And who processes that variance? Is that you, Angela?
This is other code, probably he's talking about. We have a talk, David, Michelle, we talk.
All right, well, I'll talk to
We talk.
you. Okay,
We
very
talk.
good, thank you. All right.
I'm just thinking you get 260 lots.
Hey, David,
Yes.
I want to ask traffic a question. If the minimum lot requirement's only 75 feet, how does the city have 125 feet?
Sean, we'll deal with this. We'll
Okay.
talk after the meeting, okay?
All right, cool. Thank you. Yep.
All right, thank you. Can I go? So that will be it for item number 11? You're all good? Okay.
All right.
So we will go to number 12 on the agenda, which is for Kevy with the Class A special use permit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin DeFrank with zoning. So for planning board case number 1928, it is a Class A special use permit application with the waiver requesting for the installation of 2 boat lifts on an existing dock. I provided my comments in the system. I just want to highlight comment H, which refers to you providing an updated set of plans identifying and demonstrating the lot 1/3 lines on the plan. And that is it for me.
Okay. Since this is for a dock, I'm guessing a lot of people don't have any comments, but if anybody does, let me know. Oh, Mark Hurley?
Would the dock have any firefighting infrastructure that is fed from city water?
It does have to have potable water, but not for the purposes of fire protection.
Okay, that's all right. You can just respond to my comment in a response letter. That's all I had.
Okay. Rick Rosado?
I had a similar comment, just, I'd like to see whatever waters existing shown on the drawings. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Robert, do you have them?
None.
No? Okay.
Half a comment.
All right. Anything else? Kevy? No? Okay, so obviously you can follow up with Kevy on your addressing comments and resubmittal. Any questions, you can reach out to him as well. Okay? All right, thank you, Kevin. We'll go to number 13 on the agenda, which is mine. It is a mixed-use building on Broadway Avenue, specifically 5179. It's the corner of Broadway and 51st Street. It's on approximately 1,200 square feet of retail and 12 residential units. I posted my comments earlier today and emailed them to you guys, so you should have been able to see that. Based upon the comments, I am going to request that we coordinate a follow-up meeting to go over them. I have a number of clarifications and concerns that I want to discuss regarding the building placement, encroachments into the right-of-way, parking, and things like that. So I'm not going to go through each of my comments. There's several that relate to those broader topics, and I do feel like a follow-up meeting is necessary. So, Yanina, I don't know if you want me to reach out to you to coordinate that or someone else. You'll need to unmute.
Hi, Sean. I'm Juliana Garita from Red Octopus. So yes, we will contact you, to take a look at the some specific comments that we will review today, according to the document you sent this morning. So for sure, we are going to send you an email just asking for a meeting, and then we can review a couple of details that we would like to review with you, Angelina.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
John, is one of your comments related to the position of the accessible parking right by the entrance?
Wasn't necessarily the location of it, but
getting in and out of it, right?
I definitely had questions with regards to the columns in the middle of the parking spot, the access aisle, and things like that. But I can touch base with you before I meet with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely to change that sort of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll go around the room. Fence Noel survey.
My comments are in the system. I had several concerning the survey itself, which definitely needs some work. So pass them along to your surveyor, please, so we can resubmit accordingly. That was it.
Okay. Rick Rostano, engineering.
My comments are in the system also. Just if you could reach out to me by email, that's going to be the fastest way to get a response. But I'll be glad to talk to you about anything. Thank you.
Okay. Mark Curley, Public Utilities.
I had a list of review comments, just a few to go over here. Please show the boundaries of pavement restoration on 51st Street related to utility work. Next, the applicant may be required to upgrade existing water sewer mains upon review at engineering development submittal by the city or your engineer. And lastly, I was concerned about the south side of your property. The pictures I saw showed overhead utilities. I didn't know if there's maybe an easement there or if the building would come close to some of those overhead lines. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Michael Technow, Public Utilities.
Yeah, I have not had a chance to upload my comments, so I had a few standard ones. Like Mark said, we're reviewing proposed impacts to the downstream system. So we will let you know what the result of that is.
Okay. Tracy, Stormwater.
My comments are also not in the system. I hope to get them in there before tomorrow morning.
Okay. If you can just keep me posted on when you guys get those up there, that way I can let the applicant know.
Okay.
Thank you. Valerio, for traffic?
Yes, my comments are in the system. One general comment to provide a transportation-specific site plan. You can start from sheet S202, the starting point. Provide a parking table showcasing the number of required and provided parking spaces, inclusive ADA and bicycle ones. Provide a turnaround space at the dead end of the parking lot on the south side. In sheet S202, the pavement marking showcase a right turn only wide arrow pavement marking. Vehicles actually are able to do it either left or right, so revise that drawing. Now, the northern parking stalls, inclusive of the ADA one, are too close to the edge of the road. Per SDOT access management guidelines, there should be a minimum of 30 feet driveway through. And it's calculated from the edge of the travel lane to the first conflict point. Also, per city code for the visibility triangle, I see that there is a proposed art installation within the boundary of the visibility triangle. Please make sure that location, shape, size of this art installation does meet city code 94-305E. Then please install no parking signs east and west of the proposed northern driveway, just to avoid blocking line of sight. That would be it.
All right, thank you, Valeria. Robert Brown, building?
Yep, so we'll end up looking again at the accessible parking once it's reconfigured to address John and Valeria's comments. The exit stairs, both of the two stairs are discharging into the parking garage area. I've given you the code section of the building code that requires at least 50% of the exiting to discharge to the right of way. So you will need an exit passageway, a fire rated exit passageway, or to relocate one of the stairs. Enclosed parking garages. I saw that I think the gate has openings, but I don't think that there's going to be enough openings in this parking garage for it to be classified as an open ventilated parking garage. So you're going to need mechanical ventilation.
All open. Open air.
Open, oh, is it? Okay, open above. Okay.
Underneath the building.
So some of it is covered.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll have to look at it to make sure. We'll have to look to make sure that the entire parking garage can be considered open, given that it's partially covered, so that you can avoid having mechanical ventilation and then noise attenuation that you would need for that. So we'll take a closer look at that. I've given you a list of the separate permits that are required. And I've also given you contact information regarding building address, depending on where the building entrance is. Caroline Powell is going to be your contact there. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Sabele for art.
Yep, I put my comments in there. If you plan to put option, which is integrate art onto the site, it needs to be on the site plan, so I can pass it along. If not, you have option 2, which is contribution to the public art fund, which I outlined in the comments. You just need to send me an email, which I also provided. And if you have any further questions, you can contact me and I can go over the public art requirement. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Leduc, fire.
Well, the fire has no objections and approves the site plan. My comments are placed in there for guidance when you do your plan submittal. If you have any individual comment questions, reach out to me. My contact information. Use your PDFs or put your questions in there, and I'll try to get to you before you submit, so we can avoid any delay in approving your submittal. My comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Ray Clancy, landscaping.
Good afternoon. I don't think that the person who prepared the landscape plans has worked in the city or been as familiar with the West Palm Beach code, so I'm trying to provide the comments to guide you in the right direction of how to address those issues. I wanted to point out with the buffering that anything that's adjacent to residential is going to require a screen wall or fence. So make sure to note that on your plans. I think everything else is pretty clear. The big thing is, as you're coordinating the utilities into the building, please coordinate with the landscaping that may end up changing locations of utilities for required trees and landscaping. So pay attention to that for the coordination. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Denise, anything for law? Nope. Angela?
No comment.
I'm good.
Rick? No?
Thank you.
Okay. So, Yanina, Juliana, I'll reach out to you guys to schedule that follow-up meeting. And we can go through my comments in more detail, just so you're understanding of what I'm looking for and the issues. So
Okay.
I'll do that as soon as this meeting's over.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean, for your time.
Thank you. Okay, that leads us to number 14. This is Valentina.
Hi, so Valentina Brooklyn, Associate Planner. So I have an informal site plan review for the XNL Company meter building. It's on 5950 North Military Trail. What they're proposing is to take the existing 3-story, 5,000 square foot structure meter building and replace it with a 2-story, 7,600 square foot structure. Zoning has no comments.
Wow.
Wow.
Woohoo. All right, so we'll go.
John, you can assign Valentina to all my projects.
Colleen, this does not set a precedent.
No, yeah,
Welcome aboard. All right, we'll go around the room. Vince Noel, survey.
I'll make up for Valentina's comments.
We all will.
Now my comments are in the system. The big discrepancy I saw, the site plan shows a proposed lift station, but the engineering plans didn't show water and sewer connections or the new lift station. So I know there's an existing private lift station that's northeast of the existing building. That's going to be inside the yard that was to be relocated, I imagine, for where the site plan shows it, but it doesn't match the engineering plan. So just take a look at that or explain it, or if it's no longer needed, whatever you guys come up with. So other than that, that was it for me.
Great, thank you, Vince. A lot of agencies actually had similar comments as it related to utilities and to the lift station, being that this is kind of the second phase of the Cayman substation improvements. I do have representatives from FPL as well as VRPH here. And Chris, I don't know if you want to take this opportunity to just speak quickly to the utilities and the lift station.
Yeah, I can do that. The lift station is identified on sheet A101, which is in that package. It just doesn't reflect itself in the civil drawing sets that you were probably looking for. And that A101 sheet also identifies the utility services for water and sewer, electric, and communications. That's all in that document too.
They're included in the architecture plans versus the engineering plans.
Yes, and the reason is because this was basically a two-step. There's one project that's got a permit already in place for the Cayman substation portion of the project. And then this is, second half is really just a building, replacing the 1-story with a 2-story building.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. And we usually try to stay away from looking at architectural plans and engineering.
Yeah, very well.
All right, thank you, Vince. Rick Rosano, engineering.
Vince covered my comment.
All right, Mark Hurley, public utilities.
I had a short list of comments. One of them was on the landscaping plan, it showed a 30-foot substation clear zone. I didn't know what that is, or what any requirements would that be.
Chris or Cody, is that something that you could address?
Yes, there is a requirement there for access to the substation is a 30-foot clear zone. It includes the species that you see on the plans, a specific design to prohibit them from reaching a 40-foot height and canopy. And so that's for access to the substation. It's part of FPL's requirements for at any place, anywhere along the state.
It's like a landscaping thing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's part of landscaping access. Yeah, right.
Okay, anything else, Mark? Okay. Michael, Techno, public utilities.
My concerns about the engineering plans and utilities are covered.
Okay. what Vince talked about. Tracy Ward, stormwater?
My comments are not in the system. I'm assuming that no changes are happening to the parking lot that was previously submitted.
That is
That is
correct.
correct.
Yes.
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Valerio for traffic?
Yes, my comments are in the system. Provide county GPS letter once available. You may need to go through FDOT access management and obtain a letter pertaining your access to North Military Trail. That's an FDOT facility. Providing clearly mark a walkway from the ADA stall to in the eastern parking lot to the building. And if garbage trucks, service trucks are entering the facility, provide how to turn analysis of such vehicles getting into the facility, operating, and getting out of it. And then clearly mark the loading zones, if required or needed, or provided, and provided dimensions of that. That's it.
Thanks, Valerio. In regards to the military trail access point, that already exists. And the repaving of it, I believe, was part of the recently permitted substation improvements. So does that eliminate the requirement to get an access management letter since it exists?
Well, here's the thing, you're installing a stop bar, stop sign, that you're doing modifications. Now, if you already went through the FDOT access management in previous application and obtain a letter, no problem, please provide it to me, otherwise you need to contact them and notify them. They might tell you it's okay, you don't need to schedule a meeting with them, or that you might have to, and sometimes it's just a formality because they're not doing any major work with it.
Yes, and I think Valentina, you provided us by email this morning comments from FDOT.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah, and their comment, let's see. That was issuance of DOT may be required for activities that may be conducted in the right of way. So we'll have the engineers reach out to them to see if there is any action that needs to be taken in regards to the existing entrance. And then the letter from county TPS was included in the submittal. So if you want to take a look at that, it should already be in there.
Well, I didn't see it, so it is there, just address the comment saying it was submitted, but here it is again.
Okay, no problem.
It's in there.
I missed it.
Anything else, Valerio?
Oh, that will be it, no.
Okay. Robert Brown, building?
Okay, I passed the review. I'll go over a couple of comments. The demolition of the existing building, we'll need an asbestos abatement survey to go to the Department of Health, Alex Ortega. And I've provided you with a list of separate permits that will be required for the project. That's it.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Sabelle, Art?
No comments.
No comments? Peter Leduc for fire?
Good afternoon. Fire approved the site plan. My comments that I've submitted more related to your, assisting you in your permit submittal to address the concerns with your permit. If you have any questions individually of those, reach out to me to help support you and your permit without any unnecessary failure comments and delays associated with that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ray Clancy, landscaping?
Good afternoon. Comments are in there. This was done by a landscape permit and a tree alteration permit were already issued for the substation expansion and then also the wall. So just as the expansion of the building or the additional square footage with the new building has triggered the site plan review. So there were only a couple things that were left landscape-wise that had to be brought up to code requirements with the buffers. And Colleen, we can get together to talk about this with the parking lot trees and try. I think I have some solutions to that that we might be able to figure out. And there were just a couple other technical comments with some information that was missing on the plans. What's it?
Hey, you really broke up right when you said Colleen, comma.
Are we not working? The thing's right in front of me here.
No, it doesn't have any audio.
What?
It's the microphone. Yeah,
Yeah.
she heard you.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay. Denise, anything for law? Nope. Angela? Nope. Rick?
Colleen, I've asked Valentina to include a condition that requires FPL to provide all the PPRC members free electric power for a year.
Well, that was recorded. All right, it's free. All right, Colleen, you can reach out to Tina or any of the plan reviewers. If you have any questions, and to coordinate your.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.